So with Halloween coming up at Holcomb, I thought it might be nice to tell a few stories about how things go bump in the night at the hall. And the first thing I would like to say is that if there are any spooks or whatever in Holkham Hall, they're very friendly ones. I've been at Holcomb on my own overnight in the hall, and I felt it was a very, very benign place, very friendly. So there's nothing to be scared of here. But there are an awful lot of stories about strange things happening. And one of the most interesting ones is up in the corridor library, right up in the attics at Holcomb, which is a long way up, 70 steps up from the ground floor. And the story about how some books got moved, and there's no explanation as to how. Now, up in the library here, Sam Mortlock, our one-time librarian, was cataloguing all the books up here and giving them a book number and describing them. And he came up one day and found that a series of folio books, very large books, had been picked up and turned on their side. Now that might not sound too unusual, except firstly, the books are sacrosanct. No member of staff would have dared play around with Sam's books. And the second thing is they're big and heavy, and it would be quite a job to move several of these books and put them on their side. And we have in front of us the books that were actually turned. Now what was interesting is it was around 2004 that these books were found on their side. And then it was several years later, 2008, Sam came back up here and found that mysteriously again, they had been put back the right way up, which is how you see them now. So Sam, he was a no-nonsense kind of guy, so not the sort of man taken to fancy, but he was quite convinced that something very strange had happened. So just by chance, we had a professional photographer up in the attics taking pictures of the books, and he happened to capture the books on their side, and it was published in a book by a chap called Schmidt on Holcomb, a coffee table book. And here we see the books as they were turned on their side. That's odd. Back in the day, one of our previous hall managers, Mike Daly, came up the stairs through the servery behind us and came to the first door that he needs to unlock in the morning. He went to the door and found that it was open. That's very odd, he thought. That should not be open. He came through the door and found the lights were on. That was doubly unusual. And then as he went through the hall, he found that all the doors were unlocked and all the lights were on. Now, as he'd just set the alarms, taken the alarms off, technically it should not have been possible for the alarms to have been set in the first place unless the doors were locked and shut. So this was really inexplicable. Secondly, it was very, very unusual to find any of the lights left on and certainly any of the doors unlocked, let alone all of them open and all of the lights on. We've never explained this, and Mike Daly, who was a very down-to-earth person, wanted to include this as one of our things that go bump in the night stories. So, another story that Sam Mortlock records is a time that he came into the Tribune Library, where the outsized books are kept, this beautiful collection of books. And he found that the books on all the top shelves had all been pushed back right into the back of the shelf here. Now, I'm not a very tall person, but even if I was taller, these are big, heavy books, and it would take some doing to shove them all back. And again, I'd like to emphasise that it would have been a capital offence to be caught mucking about with Sam Mortlock's books. So I very much doubt if any member of staff would have wanted to have his wrath. So again, something else that's inexplicable at Holcomb. So things that go bump in the night.